Welcome back to the PokerStars.net European Poker Tour. We're in Berlin for the penultimate day of the main event, and we are still nine-handed on our feature table. We're still one away from our official final table, one away from finishing for the day. And Luca Vivaldi, one of the tournament floor staff, is just informing the players now that they're going to play half a level. And obviously, if someone goes out before then, in the next 45 minutes, then we're done for the day. Awesome. But in 45 minutes' time, if we're still nine-handed, there's going to be a 1 hour dinner break.
Yes.
So we're hoping that this lights the proverbial fire under their proverbial bottoms and that maybe we can get this thing done by 8:30 this evening.
I think that's a very negative attitude, James. These guys are all they're playing on the biggest stage they've ever played before in their lives. It's really important. That ninth place finisher is going to wish he made it to the dinner break.
Do you know where you can take your positive attitude, Stapes?
All the way to the bank. No? Not the bank?
Well, here's a positive. We're thrilled to be joined by another member of Team PokerStars Pro. Eugene Katchalov is with us on EPT Live.
Eugene, if you had to put Alexander Helbig at a range right now, what would it be?
Before he's even been dealt cards.
Show us your reading skills.
I've heard you guys have like a really exciting final table here.
Yeah,
people are making all sorts of moves and just incredible.
Big stories, short stacks doubling up. That's what we want.
Yeah, it looks like all these guys are just can't wait to get it in.
You know what I say? In my book, you're all winners.
I mean, obviously, we've got a bunch of guys here, Eugene, who've never been here before. None of them's ever made an EPT final table, and therefore, this is going to be really tight. No one wants to go out in ninth. And ironically, this guy here, Daniel Puddin, he's been here before because he finished ninth in 2011 in this very tournament. So he doesn't want to be the final table bubble boy twice in 3 years.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting when you take that approach. But I remember from my personal experience when I made my first final table, my major final table, I was exactly in the same position. There were like 9 people left, and I was the shortest stack. And I noticed that this was happening, and I realized that look, why am I here? I really want to make the final table, but am I here because I want to make the final table or because I want to win? Like making the final table was, let's say 130,000 or 150,000. Winning was 2.5 million. So am I, what do I really want? Do I just want to be on TV? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna push the action. I'm gonna try and get a lot of chips while all these people are trying to make the final table, which I also really want to make. But I want to win more. So I got to force myself to do things I may not want to do, and then ended up winning.
I've got a favor to ask, Eugene. Can you go down to the floor and tell them that anecdote?
What a great story, though. That's amazing. And I don't know, a lot of, I feel like the established pros have similar attitudes and stories. Like, I'm here to win. Unfortunately, or fortunately for these guys, none of them are established pros, and they don't have this. You're saying this was before.
But this was before I was an established
right,
pro,
and you just had that gumption. I think that's great. I mean, that's a really unique story, I think, for someone that's never been there before.
I just think it just comes from the perspective that anytime, just at a poker table, you should always do things kind of the opposite of your opponents. If everyone's doing one thing, you should be doing the opposite. So if everyone's playing tight, play aggressive. If everyone's playing aggressive, then you play tight.
Well, and one of the guys on our production, Gregor, brought this up on the break, that Calvin Anderson was the most aggressive player at the table, whether he had chips, whether he didn't, and he ran the table as the short stack. And no one's really sort of picked up that role since he's left.
Quick reminder of the free roll password because this game is kicking off in 20 minutes' time. There are 3,000 seats up for grabs. Neil J will get you in the tournament. That's the password.
Guess what? If there's going to be a dinner break, I'm playing.
Neilj, Neil J in lowercase, will get you into the free roll. I'm registered. Joe Stapleton is registering now. Come join us at the free roll tables.
If you guys are wondering what my handle is, it's Joe Stapleton.
He plays incognito. So the first hand back from the break, Helbig raised under the gun. Herald then 3-bet, and Helbig folded. The shortest stack, by the way, is Julian Thomas in the 1 seat. He's got 1.4 million, and the blinds are now 40-80 with a 10K ante, so he has got fewer than 20 big blinds. We've seen 2 all-ins so far during 9-handed play, and in both cases, the all-in player has doubled up. I mean, what's making it tougher, Eugene, in addition to the fact that everyone's playing tight, and I totally understand that, and if I was in their position, I'd probably be doing exactly the same thing. The rate of play has been painfully slow. People taking a lot of time over their decisions, and I guess, again, one has to respect that. It's just tough from a spectator's position to...
Yeah, it's tough for us, but I mean, I can understand that from their point of view. I mean, obviously they're really trying to avoid making any mistakes and giving anything away, so they're trying to play slow. So I can understand that. It might be painful for us to watch, but I can understand it from their point of view.
Haig's button raise gets through. By the way, if you've got a question for Eugene Katchalov, email nuts@pokerstars.tv or tag your tweets EPT Live. How long are you staying in town for? Are you here tomorrow or are you leaving tonight?
I'm here tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow, and then I'm going to go to play the IPT in San Remo.
Book him for the final table, please.
Here we go. Let us know. Who are you railing?
I mean, based on the way they're playing, they might be playing the final table until I have to leave tomorrow. Maybe.
Luckily, we do have ever-increasing blinds.
Yeah, it's a lot of new faces. I don't really recognize anyone here. Actually, one person I did play with in this tournament, but besides him, I don't really know anyone.
Which was that player?
He's on the other side. I don't know his name.
What's he wearing? What does he look like?
Oh,
Got an all-in from Julian Thomas, the short stack.
Coming over the top of Roman Harold's Open to 170K.
so based on what you guys have told me, his range consists of aces, or
Aces and aces type hands.
different versions of like different colors of aces.
2 cards bigger than queen. Queen or higher.
Oh, this guy.
That is Lasse Frost, the Danish player.
Oh, he's a chip. Oh, he's almost chip leader. Second in chips.
Second in chips to Roman Harold has a decision here.
Yep.
He folds.
Damn it!
And I'm sure you guys are happy to know that Julian Thomas has now increased his chip stack by about 15%.
He's now up to 1.8 million.
I mean, way to go, Julian. Woo! Up to 23 big blinds. He can fold another couple orbits now. What is that, 5 Germans? That's not bad. 5 Germans, 2 Russians.
Oh, and this guy Dashkin Aliyev, I think he ran up to a guy I was playing yesterday in the high roller with, and he's from Azerbaijan, I believe. And he was like really excited because I think he was the chip leader or something at some point.
He was the chip leader at one point.
And I believe that guy, his buddy, told me that this is like his first tournament ever.
It is.
Is that right?
I mean, we spoke to our Russian colleagues and they told us that he plays in the only place in Russia you can play, and he won like a 10-man sit and go, which is a package to come and play
Wow.
Berlin.
Wow. That's a pretty incredible story.
Justin writes in to say, hey guys, loving the coverage. Expect the nittiness to go on because before EPT Berlin started, 4 of these 9 players haven't had a cash. Big money they're playing for.
So I guess if this guy is if Dashkin Aliyev wins, he could be like the moneymaker of Azerbaijan. Right? We might have a boom. We might have like a surge of players coming from Azerbaijan.
All we need is in the hug Dan Goldman at the end of the tournament.
Well, in answer to our question, who are you supporting and why? Gumarov says, I'm supporting Roman Konarev. Lasse on Twitter is supporting Lasse. It's not the same guy. They've got different surnames. Question, Eugene, your first major tour. Did you buy in from previous winnings or through a satellite? Your first major tournament, sorry.
Oh, my first major tournament. I remember my first major tournament was a $3,000 buy-in in the Bellagio, and I came to the Bellagio. I played some cash games. I remember I played some like 2-5 no limit, and I had 3 really good days. And then a friend of mine's like, "Go play this tournament." I was like, "No way, it's way too big." So he took half of me. So I remember I risked $1,500, and so did he. And I finished 5th in the tournament, which was pretty cool. That was, I guess, when I caught the bug.
Well, that'll do it, won't it?
Yeah, yeah. Especially in those days, like a 3K. I remember it's like 400 players or something.
I remember when
big.
you first sort of came on the scene, like you just were so hot, like out of nowhere. Like once we first heard about you, you were just going deep and like winning stuff left and right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was pretty cool. I guess it's interesting to see how, how poker changes all the time.
It was also one of the first times, which has happened to me a million times since, where I heard a name a million times. Then I saw the guy and I was like, "That's a kid. Like that's not the shark I was expecting to see." That guy's my age.
Look at that chubby kid. I mean, what can he do?
I don't think you were ever chubby.
I was.
You are svelte these days, for sure.
I love the way that when you tweeted your before and after pictures, the conspiracy theorists were like, "That's not you in the second one," because it's just a guy looking down. It could be anyone.
Yeah, I got a lot of response from those pictures. I actually got me like re-inspired. It was pretty cool. Like a lot of people have seemed to be inspired as well, and they asked me questions of how I did it. So I actually wrote up a blog today about giving some advice to people as to how they can do things on their own as well.
By the way, our production team have checked, and sadly there is no all-time money list for Azerbaijan on the Hendon mob, so we can't actually verify your suspicions, Eugene.
Well, there's going to be one now. Is it a list if there's only one name on it? James, are we missing the opening of Iron Man 3 by being here?
Yeah.
Oh, is that today?
What a bummer.
It opens this weekend. I don't know whether it opens this weekend in Germany, but certainly it's opened in the UK.
Maybe we should make a deal with the movie company, so if the table's playing so slow, we could have like Iron
Picture
Man
in
3 right
picture,
here.
yeah, something.
So we can two table, talk about this or talk about Iron Man.
Speaking of Iron Man, boy, these players are really trying their best. Harold raised his hand under the gun. He's been 3-bet by Voss.
Is that from the small blind? Is it
Yeah.
under the gun open and a small blind 3-bet?
Correct. It looks like Harold's reaching for chips.
Seems like a pretty small 3-bet, right?
170,000 becomes 370,000.
Yeah, it's pretty small considering the positions that they're in.
Not considering how small the 3-bets have been in the last level, which is where we saw at least one actual min 3-bet, and then several just 2Xs.
So Harold calls in position. Queen 7-7 on the flop.
Voss OOP.
They need a time clock in these.
Welcome to our world.
I tend to.
We keep talking about this, but nothing ever gets done.
There was a bet here. Continuation bet from Voss, 255,000. I tend to give a little more leeway to the players in these spots. Again, you know, it's for a lot of money, and no one here is like a pro necessarily. At least not a tournament pro.
Shouldn't they be concerned about the viewers? I mean,
Voss wins this pot. Which before his flop bet was nearly $1 million.
Harold still the chip leader with 4.7 million. Lasse Frost second on the leaderboard with 4.3 million. And it's Dashkin Aliyev who's now the short stack with 1.9. I'm sorry, Julian Thomas has actually dropped below 1.8, so he's the short stack. 22 big blinds.
Got a question for Eugene from Justin. It says, Eugene, just watched the NBC Heads Up. How did you make that amazing fold against Joe Chong where you had the nut flush?
oh yeah, I mean it was just a, I guess it was just a spot where, I mean I obviously had to check raise when I made the nut flush, and when Joe, he like overshoved all in. I know Joe's a really good player, so I just knew he wouldn't do that unless he had a full house, and I did not feel like a bluff. So especially it was kind of early in the match. And since I had the nut flush, he couldn't have the nut flush, so I don't think he would do it with a flush. So just based on that, I knew he kind of had to have a full house.
You were just so strong that, and he was acting stronger.
Yeah, I just remember I check raised him on the river, and he took a while and moved all in. I just sensed like that he was like trying to get the match over with, and it, to his favor. Like I don't think he was like bluffing.
If he had raised less, would you have paid off a smaller bet?
It would certainly have been easier and more tempting, but based on his raise and based on the flow of the match, I didn't think he'd be bluffing at that time.
Voss raised the button. Harold defended his big blind.
Good fold, by the way, Eugene. Great job.
10-10-10.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. Another exciting flop. You guys have been treated some action flops too, like Queen 7-7, 10-10-10. To like draw heavy flops.
Ace Deuce Deuce is a good one.
Yeah.
I am
They're, like,
loving
all
it.
Really, really draw heavy action causing flops. Just what
Actually,
you
we
wanna
did have
see.
one amazing action flop that came down like Queen, Jack, 8, King on the turn,
King on the river.
King on the river, and both guys had Queen Jack.
Voss c-bets and wins the pot.
Eugene, we've got a question from Daniel in the email. It says, how do you suggest I build my $500 online bankroll? I primarily play tournaments. Like, around what average buy-in should he be looking for? Like $11 with that bankroll? Or is that too high even?
If you're just starting, that's probably too high, I think. I'd say up to $5 buy-ins. I'd say
The
something like that.
550s? There's some good
Yeah,
guarantees on
yeah,
PokerStars
for sure.
with the 550 tournaments.
Yeah, or like $3 plus rebuys on PokerStars. They have those too. Although that may be too big as well.
I think
because
because those play really fast.
Yeah, those play really fast. So I'd say just be careful. I mean, you could probably risk like 100 or 200, and if you lose that, then just make sure you know if from the 500, if you go down to like 3 or 200, just make sure you step down and play like the $1 or $2 buy-in ones.
Alternatively, you could play a $500 tournament and win it. That's an awesome way of building.
James, that is irresponsible, and I do not condone the advice that James Hardigan is giving you, my friend. That is bad bankroll management. Coming from a $100 a week depositor, Joe Stapleton. That is bad bankroll management. Coming from a guy that spends $400 to satellite into the $215 Sunday Million, that is bad bankroll management.
I had a wild idea today. I never gamble, right? Like I mean, in the casinos, like in the casino
Table
games.
games, stay away.
Right. And I busted the high roller yesterday at the end of the day, and I really wanted to buy in again today. But
wait, so when I saw you this morning, you said you were looking for 10K from somebody.
Yeah.
And this is your idea to satellite into the high roller?
No. Listen. So my idea was, I didn't have any cash. You need cash, right? Because I didn't bring enough cash with me. So I have like 700 euros or something. So I'm like, well, I need to get 10,000. So I'm like, what can I do here?
This idea can't miss.
And I went to the casino to see how much I can take out from the ATM, and the maximum was like 500. So I was like, okay, that's not going to do me any good. So I was like, and then I started thinking to myself, well, maybe I could just play blackjack and see if I could double it every time. Because then my equity is bad, but my equity in the tournament must be pretty good. I mean, it was just a thought. I didn't actually do it.
Oh, you didn't do it? Okay.
It was just something that went through my mind. But I don't think I could respect myself if I actually did that.
I remember when Joe Cata played on the big game, he lost his 100K buy-in and then went down to Caesars and won 150 playing blackjack.
Wow.
Called it a day.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
So Haig raising this hand to 163 bet by Aliev to 310.
Haig calling by the looks of things.
We're going to see a flop.
Aliev's pretty short as well, right? He's the second shortest stack.
Yes. Jack 9-5 with 2 spades.
Well, that's pretty actiony.
Aliev with 1.6 million behind. 830,000 in the middle. Haig has checked him, I presume, because Aliev is counting out a chunky continuation bet.
So are we rooting for the Azerbaijani moneymaker?
We are rooting for the best hand to win.
I don't know about that.
There aren't that many moustaches in poker, so yeah, I'm going to root for this guy.
Haig looks like he wants to fold.
No, he doesn't. I think he's double checking that he has what he has. Maybe he has like king, queen of spades or something.
Ooh,
That'd be kind of
sexy.
cool. I mean, I'm just wondering what he has to open and then just flat as 3-bet from a short stack. It feels like 2 high cards, you know, which is usually like king, queen. Probably
Right, it's
suited.
a hand that's too strong to
or
fold
queen
to
jack.
a 3-bet,
Yeah.
but you don't want a 4-bet with
Exactly,
it.
and you want to see a flop like queen jack suited, jack 10 suited, king queen suited, you know, king jack suited, like all these hands.
Hands that are
which
doing
which
okay
obviously
here.
which
Yeah.
obviously hit this flop quite well, which is why he's not folding right away. I think he's probably has a piece of this. Yeah, he's all in. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of he very often has like big draws or top pair here.
So he shoves on Aliev.
Well,
If you're
I guess-
Aliev, you have to call a top pair, right?
yes, I would call it top pair, but I guess he's probably playing pretty tight, so he probably doesn't have top pair unless it's ace jack. In which case, yeah, he definitely has to call. Not sure what he's thinking. If he has like, I don't know. Maybe he has like 2 10s. I guess it's a really tough spot for him. I guess if he had like ace king, he'd just fold quicker. So maybe he does have like a good hand and just doesn't want to risk it.
Let's just say that you have 2 overs and a flush draw. You're not really thinking this long, right?
Oh, if I'm Aliev and I
Yeah.
have 2 overs, like ace king of spades or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be. I mean, I can't like fault him because he's
having a hard
obviously
time,
a new player.
I'm having a hard time thinking about hands that aren't like a snap
Right,
fold or
like
a
there
snap
should be
call
an
here.
easy call or fold.
Right.
The only hand that I can think of is 10s that would be like that you actually like would take some time and wouldn't be sure of.
And then I guess like if it's tens, but you think that you're up against something like
Yeah,
a,
you're
a pair
just
and a huge draw, you're like flipping, right? Or
yeah.
not even. You're probably
With
even a
tens,
little behind.
you're either like kind of way behind versus jacks,
Here we go.
or I don't know. Oh, okay.
What does that mean? I'm going to move my chip stack slightly to the side. It didn't even look like he was trying to get a read. Yeah, maybe he was just trying to remember his cards were that whole time. He's like,
Yeah,
I guess I got to look.
You never see this. Well, this is like kind of when you know that he's like not an experienced player, because most players on this board with their stacks, they kind of know what's going to happen. Like, I mean, what they're going to do once they bet. They get shoved on. They know what they're going to do. You should just kind of know.
My guess is Haig is probably pretty happy he's tanking this long.
My guess is that Haig is probably hoping for a fold, but is okay with a call. I'm guessing his range is probably just like draws and maybe a pair of jacks. But I would be really confused if I had a pair of jacks here. Like, do I want to call? Like, I don't know. I just don't know. I just wouldn't know what he has, what he's thinking with.
You're saying if you're Haig
Like,
and you have a pair of
well,
jacks?
well, yeah, just because I think that there might be a chance that
I think once he
Aliyev
tanks
is
this long, I'm fist pumping when he calls. If I
no,
have a pair of
I
jacks.
know, but I'm saying just because he really wants to make this is the final table bubble, so I could see him even tanking
just
with
want-
like queens or kings. Like he might think that like maybe like he might think twice
against-
or 3 times.
Not for 3.5 minutes, though, surely.
Probably not. I
No.
agree, but only because it's the final table bubble and it's somebody who's playing his first tournament. I could see them being afraid with a hand like kings here or queens, maybe. But even then, I do agree. For 3.5 minutes, they would probably call already. But wow.
Kicks it in.
I guess we'll just never know. Huh?
Well, he's going to be left pretty
I think
short
two tens
now.
is probably the most reasonable.
That's the only hand
you
I could
tank
think
with,
of.
yeah.
2 tens is the only hand I
That
could
you're
think
three
of.
betting with before the flop.
Exactly.
And that you have like a really difficult decision
Yeah.
there.
That's the one that really makes sense. And if that's the case, then I think I like the fold.
I think so too, because I
That's
think
what he
at
had?
worst you're just gonna have
Yeah.
like
It makes sense to play the hand the way he played it with 2 tens. He could check the flop, check back, but it's fine.
Well, he now has a 16 big blind stack.
Problem with betting that flop is, well, like if I were in his position, I'd realize that my opponent's range consists of hands that really hit that flop. So I would expect to get check raised all in a lot. So I might check back tens in that spot, and see what develops on the turn.
I think it's real tempting to bet the tens with only one overcard out there and
Yeah.
kind of ignoring
Yeah,
the fact that
exactly.
there's lots of other hands you can get shoved on,
Exactly. Yeah.
shoved with.
So let's just
on
assume
with.
he had tens.
The free roll has kicked off, by the way. Looks like Frost is going to raise here.
I remember when Frost played on my table, he was wearing glasses.
Sure it's the same guy?
Yeah, for sure. I think, or at least I think he was.
I mean, there were 912 players in this tournament, Eugene. It's possible there was another guy with a beard.
No, it was definitely him.
That's bananas.
Who are we waiting for now?
Some poker player.
It's not Harold, is it?
Some nitty McNitterson.
It is Harold, right?
Oh, Roman. Roman. Every time I hear a clunking noise, I think it's the dealer going for the all-in triangle, and I get excited.
When you take that long, you're certainly looking at 3-bet.
Three bets at 325,000. These are the two biggest stacks at the table. Eugene Bonoloy in the Observer chat in the free roll asked me to give you a hug from him. So I'm just going to do a one-arm hug. Oh, he's giving a hug back, too. There you go. Gene's a good kid. Love this guy.
There's a lot of man love going on right now.
He doesn't get weird about a little just normal adult male affection.
Feels like we're going to see a 4-bet, but I don't know.
What's it going to be, Frosty?
Feels like 750,000.
There's a stack of yellers.
Maybe 800.
Listen to Eugene.
Yeah, definitely looks like a 4-bet. But I think smaller than I said.
No one's really been... All the 3 and 4 betting have been fairly small.
I love it. The two biggest stacks at the table going at it. $535,000. Wow.
Has there been a lot of this or no? Like 4 or 5 betting, or I mean, with these, at least with these two guys. I'm saying.
No, not a lot of 4 or 5. I think has there been a lot of this slow tanking?
No.
The answer to that question would be yes, by the way. But no, there's not been.
So this is a fairly new dynamic for them, right?
I hope there's no Roman charges, because this guy's eating up my daytime minutes.
All right.
Has he called?
He has.
Wow, so 1.3 million in the middle already.
Which is it, by the way, observers in the free roll? Am I playing badly, or is Eugene ghosting me?
Bit from column A, bit from column B.
What's the best you guys have ever done on these free rolls?
James finished like 37th once.
Oh,
out of
really?
like 30,000
Oh, my
people.
God.
I ran unbelievably well.
Were you actually excited by that point? Where you were like, wow.
Yeah,
Are you trying to win?
I'll be honest with you. I was actually, we'd finished. The final table was over, and I was actually trying to bust, and I was getting it in bad and like sucked out like 10 times in a row. But then obviously when it got down to like the final 15, I started taking it seriously, made the mistake of then getting my money in good, and of course allowed someone else to suck out on me.
You see, that's what happens.
Frost has continued here.
Stick to what you're good at, James. Stick to getting it in bad and winning.
Spewy shops for the win.
Yeah. Looks like he's continued for 360. About a quarter of this pot.
Gary on Twitter says, guys, is there any reason why someone can't call time on Harold as soon as it's his turn to act? Would be a little bit harsh, but I know where you're coming from.
We can lobby for that, right? Or you know, you guys.
10 minutes left on the level. Not sure that we're going to play another hand.
So he made a really small bet. I don't know. Let's see. Let me see if I can say anything about this hand.
By the way, when I say 10 minutes on the level, I mean 10 minutes until the dinner break. There'll be another 45 minutes of 40-80 action after the dinner break.
Oh, wow, he folded. Wow. Trying to think of what he had.
That's it, the tiny little C-bet, huh? Gets it done. Must be a good feeling. Action's folded around.
Now, Joe, I know that in recent days you've been asking for a soundboard, and it was made very clear to us that that ain't going to happen.
Yes.
There was bad experiences with the soundboard on the Inside Scoop shows. I would request, though, and it might not be able to make this happen for Monte Carlo, but maybe for Barcelona in Season 10, a telestrator. So we can go all John Madden. And moments like this, when the action's a bit dull, kind of like started drawing like devil horns on one of the guys, maybe a comedy glasses on one of the others.
James, I'm in.
It's actually a pretty genius idea.
You watch this guy bet.
Whip Brandon says that 4-bet sizing is so bad you can set mine with jacks and take a flop in position with queen jack suited.
I'm a little bit worried. We've got several people on Twitter saying that at this rate the final table will become an all-in fest because the blinds will catch up with them. And we have had that in the past. I think it was the PCA in 2012, also last year's grand final, where like the biggest stack was like 45 big blinds.
Wow.
It does, unfortunately,
Bernard Guillon.
take the play out of the tournament slightly.
Boss raising this hand. Padoon flatting. And Koronev
He's all in.
is all in from the small blind. Voss started the hand with 3.61 million. 1 3/4 million to call.
He hasn't folded yet. He was looking at the clock, so maybe he's hungry.
Could be. He only has to fold for a little while longer, and he makes it all the way to dinner. Hopefully that's not a benchmark anymore for these guys. You're on day 5 of a poker tournament.
No, he's probably folding. Oh no. So you showed for like a little, like 23, 24 blinds.
Nadia Magnus has tweeted at me. Winner of the first season of the big game. Def playing the Red Spade Open this Sunday on PokerStars, especially since there's a $100 bounty on Stapes.
That's right, the bounty is only on Stapes. Leave me alone. To be fair, there's a few people in the free roll who are slightly confused. They've obviously seen the banner go up about the bounties on us in the Red Spade Open and think there's a $100 bounty on me in the free roll. You are not going to win anything for knocking me out of the free roll.
Who's the action even on? What's happening?
I think it's on Voss.
Is this real life?
Yeah, I mean, Voss obviously looking at Pirda, knowing he's still to act.
I guess he has a hand like Ace-Jack suited, maybe Ace-Queen, or like 2 8s or 2 9s, and is just unsure of what to do. And if this guy, and he clearly is afraid of this guy Daniel Guy that he's trapping. No.
And both players fold.
Yeah, he's unhappy with his fold.
Ship the pot to Kornev. Eugene, you're playing the Red Spade Open, right?
I don't know if I might be in Italy, so I can't play in
Ooh.
there, unfortunately.
Robert says, love listening to Eugene. Can he come back tomorrow? Yes, he can. And he will.
At this rate, we won't be coming back tomorrow. We'll still be here tomorrow.
Let's get Iron Man set up here, guys.
As long as we pay for it. Don't believe in piracy. You're a big star, Eugene. You could probably get him to ship you a copy.
Nah, I wish. Well, the shortest stack is in the big blind, but that probably doesn't mean much.
Not with dinner fast approaching.
Yeah.
In 2.5 minutes, a.k.a. one decision.
I would imagine this is the easiest raise for Kornev right now, with literally any 2 cards. All he has to worry about is small
Aliyev's
blind.
basically, his body language is like folding already.
Yeah, he might not even look at his 2 cards. Now, if I was a small blind, I would be very inclined to 3-bet here with almost any 2 cards.
If only you were the small blind.
If only. All right.
Well, we're going to get at least one more hand in. All right, I feel like there's some nastiness going on in the chat in the free roll, so I feel like being really nice, actually. So this email from Ross says, so I got Elke to say hi to me. Can I get Eugene to say hi to me too, please? I guess I need to say hi first. Hi, Eugene, one of my favorite players. Good luck in Monte Carlo and in the scoop. Ship it.
Thank you. Who's this?
This is Ross. Say hi to Ross.
Hi,
Eugene.
Ross.
Look at that. Eugene's a great guy. He'll say hi to anybody.
Joe, are you still in the free roll?
No.
No wonder he's got time to read all these messages.
I am definitely not still in the free roll.
James is busy winning the free roll.
There was a lot of nice people in the chat, but I don't know how you guys do it because the nasty people in the chat make it not fun to play.
I believe you can mute the chat.
Well, I don't want to do that.
I've got a lot of people in the chat confused about why people are so rude in the chat to you. In all seriousness, that's the main conversation topic at my table. Why do people hate on Stapes? It is.
I guess when you play, the observers aren't allowed to talk unless they have enough money in their accounts.
Is that right? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
no.
think I can just turn off observer chat or turn it on.
Well, no, the way it works is like if you're playing like let's say a scoop event that's like 5K or something. The only people who can chat in the observation are people who have 5K in their accounts. Yeah.
Okay. I see now.
So I'm guessing if I were playing even a $1 tournament, most of the people that were being rude to me probably couldn't say anything.
Oh, it's up to Aliyev, huh? I didn't realize that.
Yep,
He's in the tank after an early position raise. Wow.
And we are officially on dinner break.
Wow, if he's thinking, he must have like ace queen or like 2 10s even. Because I think anything worse, he'd probably fold based on the way he's played. Wow.
And I feel like if everyone gets up from the table and goes to dinner while he's thinking, he's going to be more inclined to just fold and go to dinner also.
Oh man, it sounds like he's just gonna make a pretty bad fold probably. I would definitely like to have his hand if he's still thinking.
Here we go. Oh,
No, he's just doing that same trick he did before.
now he checks his cards again and
he's
folds.
Tricking you, Joe. Come on, do it.
No, he's folding.
The thing is, if he does it, that guy's probably gonna fold though. No. Oh wow. He touched the small blind. Usually when people touch the small blind, that means they're doing it. They're going for it.
Let's kind of use our positive energy to somehow influence the action here.
Give him the power. Give him the courage. Just do it. You have the best hand. I would bet that he has the best hand. Who opened the pot anyways? It was Frost, the guy who has all the chips,
It's
right?
Voss.
Oh, Voss. Well, he has a lot of chips too.
Exactly.
He also has all of the chips.
No. Yep.
And by the way,
Eugene's
Eugene's disappointed not because of the lack of action necessarily, but also because, I mean, if he's thinking that long, his hand's probably good in that spot.
I think it was. I'm saying I think his hand was something like 2 8s, 2 9s.
Well, we still have another
or
decision
like ace
here.
queen.
Helbig's decided to defend his big blind.
Helbig starts the hand with 2.3 million. Flats the raise. We see a flop, which is ace 8 deuce with 2 clubs.
Yeah, you're probably unlikely to see an action. Wow.
The same flop on my table in the free roll.
Oh, weird.
Wow.
No, it's
That
not.
was weird.
It's not the same flop.
I don't have any cards. I can't go all in.
Unfortunately for you guys, there's just almost no way that this is going to be too big a pot.
Let's get a couple more tweets in real quick. Petrascu says, "Hi, Eugene. Good luck in Monte Carlo."
Thank you.
Willem says, "This guy's such a tease," referring to Aliyev as Blenis. Also says he's the master of the chip stack pump fake.
Yeah, he is, actually.
And this pot is going to get raked by Pascal Voss. The last hand of the dinner break. We're going to take a full 1 hour dinner break.
In the meantime, we thank Eugene Katchalov from Team PokerStars Pro, and we look forward to chatting to you tomorrow, Eugene, at the final table.
I'll be here.
So we play on. Join us again in 60 minutes' time as we continue to play down to the final table here at the Berlin leg of the PokerStars.net European Poker Tour. Hello and welcome back to our live coverage of the PokerStars.net European Poker Tour. It is day 5 of the EPT Berlin main event at the Grand Hyatt, hosted by the Spielbank Berlin, and 9 players remain. And that means we have to keep playing until we lose one more player, so we have our final 8, and then we'll return tomorrow for the final table.
James, we don't have to keep playing till we lose one more player. We get to keep playing until we lose one more player. It's a privilege that we get to continue this broadcast.
I love the way you're spinning it there. But yes, it has been, what's the best way of putting it? The action's been slow.
Trying.
Understandably, everyone is trying to cling on and make the final table.
I thought Benny Spindler just won EPT Berlin. What happened?
Yeah, there were a couple of tweets. People clearly not aware they were watching a replay of the EPT London final table from Season 8, which Benny Spindler did win, and obviously missed the fact that there was a replay bug in the top right-hand corner and thought that Benny had won this tournament.
I should probably delete my tweet then. Awkward.
So as it stands, these 9 players are coming back from the dinner break. This is the final 9 in seat order, and we're going to play another 45 minutes of 40-80-10. And then if we're still nine-handed after the end of that level, we'll be playing 5,100 with a 10k ante. We have got a player who's got a 14 big blind stack.
So he's due to double up any second now. I wonder what it is he folded, by the way, in the small blind right before we left for dinner.
It's James Harskin and Joe Stapleton calling the action on the English language stream. You can get in touch with us on Twitter, tag your tweets EPT Live, email nuts@pokerstars.tv.
How'd you do in the free roll, James?
I think I made the top 6,000.
It's pretty good. That's top 20%, right?
Made the mistake of getting it in with nines against aces.
You fish. We do have an all-in. Julian Thomas.
Shoving for 1.6 million. So shoving for a 20 big blind stack.
And he's not the shortest stack, so I would expect him to be pretty strong here.
Just a big blind to get through. One of the chip leaders, Lasse Frost, in fact, the chip leader with 5 million. He folds, so blinds and antes for Julian Thomas.
So that first hand is technically a raise and take it.
You see, we're in that situation, and we talked about this earlier on. It happened at the PCA in 2012, it happened at last year's Grand Final, when nine-handed play went on for so long that when the final eight did get to the final table, the blinds had caught up with them. And, you know, if we get to the next blind level, there's a chance that our chip leader, Lasse Frost, would not even have 50 big blinds.
That's correct. Not even 40 big blinds. Oh, our chip leader, incorrect. Not even 50 big blinds, but the rest of the players, not a single one of them would even have 40 big blinds.
Les PLO says, whether it takes 2 more hands or 2 more hours, I'm with you, boys. Loving your work. That's what we need right now. I'm not going to lie to you, motivation. It's been a long week. We kind of hoped, and I know it was a bit of a naive hope, that we just have one day where we just breeze through, where it was like maybe 5 hours of play, but no, 9.5 hours and counting.
Today was going to be the short day. But, it always eventually evens out. They have these things structured really well. This tournament overall may take a little bit longer just because there are more chips in play than usual. Other than the PCA, this is the biggest turnout we've had in a while. So this tournament may take another level or two, but everything usually evens out. They structure them perfectly. So if we have a long day today, it'll be a little shorter tomorrow. If it was a short day today, it would have been a brutally long final table tomorrow.
Robert Haig raises to 160,000. And that looks like a call from Lasse Frost in the small blind.
Yep. Looks like Pascal Voss is thinking in the big blind. Looks like he's also going to defend.
3-way to the flop. By the way, Patrick Larson tweets to say, I ran very well when the EPT live stream was on a break. Now to find out if Stapes and Hartigan are my kryptonite. Good luck to everyone who is still in the free roll. Jack 10-10 with 2 clubs.
Boy, this could be an action board.
Someone must have connected with this flop. What about you, Beardy McWeirdy?
Egg in position and with the betting lead this hand.
Well, Frost has checked. Voss has checked.
This just checks around.
6 of diamonds on the turn. Frost checks a second time.
This time Voss is going to take a stab.
Yeah, I guess with these two players, we have to be very clear, don't we? Frost checks and Voss.
Now, if we just said boss, we really wouldn't know who we were talking about. Because they're both bosses.
So Boss, sorry,
Ha, gotcha.
thank you, Joe. Until it's getting late. Voss leads for 175,000.
Haig out of here. Frost calls. Four in the river.
Two of the biggest stacks of the table. We've got the chip leader and the guy who's third on the leaderboard.
Frost first to act. Oh, looks like it went check, check. Two queens. Could not go for value, but they are good.
So Lasse Frost extending his chip lead.
What is happening? How is not more money getting in with these big hands? These guys are all terrified to not make the final table.
Sorry, just to check, it was Frost who won that hand, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we just need to fix something. Yeah, Frost now up to 5.5 million, and Voss down to 3.35.
Richie says, chin up, guys. Just think you get to go to the Bahamas. Can't be bad. Still in this free roll, too. Well, Richie, it has been a long day, but got to tell you that you still being in the free roll really makes it worth it for us. Godspeed, Richie. Godspeed.
James Scully asks, who has the better track record in the free rolls? Who has the bragging rights in the booth?
I think both those honors.
Well, I actually think that while I have a better track record in the free rolls, I think Stapes has the bragging rights in the booth because he performs well in proper tournaments with decent prize pools. Aren't you like 3 for 3 in Sunday Millions?
Yes, I've played 3 Sunday Millions in my life. I haven't won 3 of them.
No, but in terms of cash,
I have cash, yeah, and I went really deep actually in the last one I played. I finished like 160th or something.
Yeah, that to me is worthy of bragging rights.
And when I say really deep, that was out of, I think, between 9 and 10,000 runners that week. Got a raise here, small to big. Do you think we can start calling Robert Haig the Haig?
Knock yourself out.
Thanks, pal. 447. Action on the Haig.
The Haig isn't even in this hand.
Oh, it's Pascal Voss, huh? It's okay. He'll be in a hand eventually, and then I will call him the Haig. It's Voss and Padun.
Got to be honest with you, I'm really glad that this year there's a 5-day break between Berlin and Monaco. Last year, Berlin concluded, we got on a plane, and we went straight to the grand final.
That is true.
This year, at least, there's a few days to regain my sanity.
Yeah, 3 days of us in voiceover.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, 2 days for me to regain my serenity, my sanity. Wow, David Negus is such a big fan of yours, Joe, and he loves your commentary.
He's a good guy. I like him. Who?
Hold it around to the short stack. Ashkin Aliyev. Seems to like what he sees. I'd argue he's kind of got one move.
I'm sure he likes what he sees, other than his chip stack. Well, James, was that the one move you were talking about? A min raise?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was not a min raise. 165,000.
A min plus raise.
That's 165,000.
I'm going to assume, which could be dangerous, he's not intending to raise fold.
I will make no such assumption.
Yeah, as soon as the words came out of my mouth, I realized that was a really, really stupid thing to say.
I think he's going to win this hand. Action on slow rolling Roman. The raise gets through. Whew. Claw tweets us to say, I just want you to know I'm having a wonderful time. I want you to know this. Thank you, Claw.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have great pleasure to announce to you the final 9 players of our high roller tournament.
Action on Koronev this hand, under the gun, out.
Final 8. For now, I would like to welcome you in seat 1 from Canada.
Now action on the Hague.
And he is raising.
Final table, the high roller being announced. Scott Siever tweeted, final table of the 10K with Griffin Benger, James Mitchell, Maxim Leakoff, Martin Cabral, and more. Oh, look at that. We've got someone, we've got a hot off the presses.
Hot off the press, I bring you high roller update.
Mr. Neil Johnson, everybody. Woo!
The man whose name was used as the free roll password today.
Which I thought was fantastic. Thank you, guys.
You realize that was our public way of naming and shaming you for revealing what our real password yesterday.
Absolutely. I'll take it. Hey, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Isn't that what they say?
That is what they say.
For everyone interested in the high roller, actually, I suppose I'll wait and see if his raise actually gets called.
It has been, but it doesn't mean anything exciting is going to happen.
I got that vibe after listening to you guys for about 5 minutes when we came back. I was like, oh, so this is what it was like when Eugene was in here. Apparently, we have had a very slow play for nine-handed. Did we? I missed Eugene's whole bit, though. Did we finish the casting Die Hard with
I was
Elke and
over it
Eugene?
by the time Eugene came in. I didn't want to do it anymore.
To be fair, Eugene had already been cast. Jeremy Renner has already been offered the role, and we're waiting to hear back from his agent.
Jeremy Renner. I do like that one. Okay.
By the way, spilling the free roll password is now known as pulling a Johnson, which sounds
There's a lot of ways you can interpret that particular
fun.
phrase.
So when I accidentally photographed the free roll password and tweeted it, I also pulled a Johnson.
Yep.
Boy, if you pull a Johnson on Twitter,
Hardigan famously.
It's entirely possible your Twitter account will be suspended.
Hardigan's famous for pulling Johnsons.
If you go to YouTube. It's not Hardigan, actually, that does that. It's Partigan.
Partigan.
James Partigan is the one who's pulling Johnsons. Left, right, and sideways. Every time you get an open bar.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell we've been going for nearly 10 hours, and we've been nine-handed for almost 2 levels.
We've got a C-bet of 240,000 and a call. Have we been playing raise and take it, or are we actually just playing pots as we push chips around?
We've been playing sit there for 5 minutes and fold.
Oh, that's a really fun way.
There's been a lot of, pots played, to a turn or river, like queens versus jacks with no betting after the flop. That's happened. There's been shove and take it. There's been shove, tank, take it.
There's been
shove, tank, take it.
There's been a couple of all-ins with the all-in player surviving.
Yeah, I saw ace-king against queens early. We had that particular flip with an ace on the turn for the guy in the 5 seat, right?
In terms of tanking, though, I do have some important questions to ask you, Neil, but let's get through this hand. Let's look at the high roller final table, and then we're going to get into the intricacies of tournament direction, as we always do when you're with us.
All right.
Here comes Haig again.
Jan
Looks
asks,
like, what, 540? 535?
Yeah, I can't imagine
That's
him
half
doing
pot.
this with much worse than a queen.
Jan asks on Twitter, are you guys getting paid by the hour?
Sadly, James and Joe were not. They were not able to negotiate that.
We're only
into
paid
their-
by the hour on really short days. But on the long days, it's just a flat fee.
Maybe paid by the word.
Well, that's going to get me talking again.
Looks like he's going to pass. And there we go. All right. For those waiting on the high roller update, we've got 9 players left, so of course not an official EPT final table.
No.
But we have condensed them to one table. Seat 1, you've got Griffin Banger from Canada with 711,000. Yes. Seat 2, Team PokerStars Pro, Maxim Lykov from Russia with the chip lead of 1.8 million.
Look at those stacks.
Jan Peter Jachman, they're in Seat 3, 620,000 from Germany. Seat 4, Katorza Philippe, 569,000 from France. Seat 5, the very, very short stack at this table, Joni Jokkimainen from Finland with only 155,000. Seat 6 there is super high roller PCA winner Scott Seaver, 580,000 from the States. Seat 7, James Mitchell, 442,000 from the UK. Seat 8, Czech pro Martin Cabral with 848,000. And Seat 9, Aaron Lim, who's come all the way from Australia to be second in chips with 1.253 million.
Looks like Cabral raising this hand.
Yeah, you can see Yoni there with that. It looks like it's even bled down a little bit. For everyone looking, the reds there are 25K. The blue is 5K and the yellow is 1K. Looks like they're flipping out 5s for an ante, so the level must be 5,000. Or no, oh, they're putting out 2s for the ante, excuse me. So it's 2, which means it's either 612 or 816 would be my guess, I think. Looks like 612. So 2 612, and Yoni's got probably about 10 big blinds at this point, maybe 12.
Now, James, if people want to follow the action of the high rollers, there's probably nowhere they could do it, right?
Oh, you're wrong. Because if you go to the PokerStars blog and go to the live update section, not only will you get live updates from the main event, but also from that high roller.
You're kidding.
Just like Steve Hughes here on Twitter says, here at last, any big news or action? Is JH still the magic anchor? Has JS been funny at all? No matter. At PokerStars blog. Next stop. That's the way to do it, Steve.
So, Neil, I want to ask you about some of the early action here. I don't know if you were made
Okay.
aware, but Luca Vivaldi was called to the table about 4 times in 4 minutes. We had a situation when we had 17 players. There's still 3 tables where
Right.
the Finnish player, Matthias Kesanen, was taking an eternity to even look at his cards. And I guess the players at the table suspected that he was stalling, possibly to ladder up into 16th. And
Yeah, there was a significant money jump between 17th and 16th.
so the floor was called, and I guess I'm interested in knowing, is this an empty threat or is this a genuine ruling from Luca? He said to Matthias that if this continues to happen, if you continue pausing every time the action's folded to you, we're going to look at your cards and see if you actually have a genuine decision to make.
Absolutely.
Wow, look at that. Was that a walk with aces?
Oh, that's brutal.
No, it wasn't a walk. It was a raise and take it with aces.
Yes, it's an absolute ruling. I mean, the stalling and everything, there's very little. I mean, we've spoken about this once or twice. I can't remember where it was, and I've been quoted in the Stars blog and stuff. I don't believe in the shot clock for a tournament. I think it's a player's tournament. It's up to them. On the other hand, I also don't believe it makes you kind of a jerk if you call the clock on someone who's tanked for 4 or 5 minutes, especially when someone's doing, there's very little reason to be tanking at 5,100 at the start of the tournament. But players who are obviously stalling, the floor can absolutely take additional measures against them. It sounds like the Finnish kid was not even being subtle about it. I mean, it's one thing, and I have seen that in another hand where the guy just essentially refused to look at his cards until the floor was called. He was obviously tanking, and essentially with the ruling that was put on is you have to look, and normally the players will get a 60-second countdown to kill their hand if someone says, I want the clock on that player. We just started giving him essentially an auto 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Absolutely. If I have to be called to the floor 3 times,
Has
has
this ever happened where a tournament director has looked at a player's cards and made a decision?
Happened in San Remo.
It did happen.
Happened in San Remo. And it was a very,
Explain to me the actual procedure for that.
Well, this was what happened is I was watching. It was a satellite, which made it even more awkward because if you penalize and sit somebody out in a satellite, you might be doing exactly what they want you to do.
True.
So they can hit. We were on the bubble of a super satellite.
All in.
Here we go.
Julian Thomas.
We may have to wait to conclude this story tomorrow.
Just has the blinds to get through.
Never mind. I was watching, and it seemed to be, you kind of get that vibe when you walk by a table of, oh, there might be a big hand brewing here. And I'm watching this guy, and he's tanking forever. And he finally goes ahead and mucks after about 3.5 minutes. And he mucks, it was something like 5 deuce off or something. And I'm looking at the rest of the table, and I'm looking, and now he's fine if he doesn't flip those 2 damn cards over, and I see him. And I lean back to Luca Vivaldi.
Why does he flip them over? How do you even get to know what the cards are?
I think I have no idea why you would show those 2 cards, but he tanks it off for 3 to 4 minutes, shows 5 deuce.
So he deliberately showed, or
yeah, he showed his cards, flipped them up. He was in the big blind, and I leaned back to Luca and I said, I want you to watch that table, watch the guy in that seat. He's stalling, he's tanked. There's something going on here. And Luca waits, and on the very next hand, same situation. This guy tanks off for 4.5 minutes, and Luca tells the dealer to hold those cards, pulls him off to the side, 6-3 offsuit. And essentially, and like I said, the satellite makes it play out a little weirder because giving him a 1-orbit penalty might even be what he wants.
A tournament director isn't looking at the cards before the action is made and deciding, okay, that was what was confusing me. Yeah, now it makes sense. This is after the guy folds. Then you look at the hand, and if it was a hand that didn't require a decision, then you assess a penalty.
Exactly.
Got it. See, that makes a lot more sense to me. I was totally misunderstanding.
Okay,
I thought Luca's going to sweat the cards with him and tap him on the shoulder. Sir, you don't have a decision here. You need to fold these cards.
It'd be more fun if we did that.
Neil, here's the thing. Yeah. And I guess I'm playing devil's advocate slightly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But who is to say that he doesn't have a decision there? What if he's thinking of making some bluff and then just doesn't go through with it, having considered his options?
The difficulty on that is essentially the kind of multiple kind of repeat. And again, if you confront the player, I mean, it's one of those things. While poker players are usually really good at not giving off tells and protecting their, usually when like the floor approaches, it's very hard for someone to hide. It was obvious to everyone at that table he was tanking off. And essentially, Luca did give him an orbit penalty because there's very little we could do. And while it might be what he wants, because now he has no danger of going broke, which is the really awkward spot of doing that on the bubble of a satellite. Whereas in any other tournament, you probably don't have those types of repercussions. But there's also, we have to protect the integrity of everyone else in the event from what's happening. Especially when we're not like on the dead bubble, which means these players are not seeing the hands that the other tables are seeing.
Could you have a penalty in a satellite format where if you put player on a 1-orbit penalty, the rule is that they have to contribute a big blind for every hand that they're sitting on the rail? Or is that too harsh?
You could, but it would have to be something extremely egregious, just really extremely egregious. So I can't really see myself doing that. I mean, it's again, it goes to the story we told the other day about when can someone fold aces or something like that, or when can you actually force someone to play, and that was it's kind of the same thing. It would have to be so massive for me to say.
Appears to have a decision here. It's been raised by Voss, 3-bet by Koronev.
So it's Aliyev's big blind. He's the short stack at the table. He has a 10 big blind stack. Now, if he were to move all in, I don't see any way that
He's done this so many times, by the way. Capped his cards, put his hands behind his chips to push him in, stopped, waited about 10 seconds, checks his cards again, mucks him.
And I'm not saying he is going to move all in, but if he does move all in, it's very tough for Koronev to fold.
What did Koronev started the hand with $2.5 million.
3-bet.
And it's going to be, what, the 845 is what he started, right? Yeah, 855 is what he started the hand with before the antes. So that's a real tough one for Koronev. I mean, it's for a third of his stack, but you've already got 330K in there, plus the dead money of Voss if Voss lays it down.
Plus, are you really 3-betting light here on the final table bubble? Probably not.
So he has been thinking for the better part of 2 minutes.
And if we don't lose a player, these blinds are going up in less than 20 minutes.
And this is pretty standard from what we've seen from nine-handed play so far, Neil, is that players are taking a lot of time over their decisions. And I'm not faulting them for that, but obviously it does make quite a tough watch.
It does make for a tough watch, and this goes to even what we were talking about with the shot clock. It's like they are literally hurting themselves because, and I heard you guys mention this. When I only got to listen to the beginning of this, but you guys talked about they could end up getting in tomorrow fairly crippled. I mean, when we started this morning, I think we were 65, 70 bigs deep. That was the average stack, which is tons of play, tons of movement. And we're going to reach the point where it's the 3 million average right now, but we're about to go 50 and 1.
So average stack's going to be 30 big blinds in 20 minutes.
Yeah. And they kind of end up only hurting themselves in that situation. I understand the tanking. I understand all of that, and this is the dynamic of the way it's played. But it could make tomorrow a fairly quick table, unless you get 3 or 4 bust outs in the first level or 2, and the chip average goes back up.
So with Aliev folding, action's now back on Voss, who opened from early position to 160k, and now faces this 3-bet from Koronev.
That actually is an interesting question for your Twitter guys, because I've talked to some tournament directors who will adjust the blinds to make sure that the final table is deep enough and playable enough. They'll roll back, they'll do things like that. And I personally think this is the way the tournament played. It's
Absolutely.
not fair to the
I
big
agree
stack.
with that, yeah.
And there we go. He's going to get his 3-bet through.
The other issue that Luke had to deal with this morning was a hand involving Pascal Voss, who's still at the table. He's the Dutch player in the 6th seat. Sorry, the 7th seat. We're 9-handed at the moment. Pascal was involved in a hand against Kim Win. Kim Win had raised, and actually I think it was a 3-bet from Win, and then Pascal Voss cold 4-bet. And Win wanted a count on his chips, and he said to Pascal, how much have you got there? And Pascal didn't want to answer him, as is his right. However, the point that Win made is, well, your chips are all over the shop. I mean, they're in like random stacks. I can't see how much you have. Asked for a ruling. Luca was called over, and Luca said, you need to have them in stacks of 20.
Essentially, your chips need to be countable by the other player. And the accepted form for that for virtually everyone in poker is stacks of 20.
Do you know that was so long ago that feels like yesterday?
Yeah, tell me about it.
You know, it is. I mean, that's the acceptable. It's very touchy because you don't want, like, if you go to the dealer and you don't like to put the dealers in situations where, like, let's say, and Nilu's a fantastic dealer, but let's say she does make a mistake and it influences and stuff like that. You want to kind of limit the possibilities for tournament staff error to impact the game, and for the player to give his amount as well. He could also make a mistake, intentionally or unintentionally. So most people try and kind of shy away from an exact perfect count. And also, as we see here, it could be a great way to tank.
Well,
how much do you have left?
What Luca did is Luca restacked the chips in stacks of 20s and
laid them out so Win could count them. Yeah.
Koronev raising again, this time called by Haig in the cutoff.
But it's also important information that a player is entitled to. A lot of tournament organizers, and we had this debate as well, is if we allowed players to get an exact count, it would become a stalling tactic.
Sure.
You know, I want to know what he had.
I want to know, right.
Exactly. I want an exact count. And now they get an extra 2.5 minutes before they really have to think, especially if you're at a position where, and our guys, and I mentioned this the other day, our guys are really good. We don't really think anybody needs more than 2 racks of chips. You're not going to see bricks in front of any of our players where you know, they're going to have 10 racks of chips in front of them. Because it slows the game down horribly. Because you know what happens.
We're just restacking them.
Well, no, James hits a 3-outer on you, and you're now all pissed off, and so you pay him in the smallest denomination chip you have, and we got to move 14 stacks of chips from the 3 seat to the 8 seat.
It was check on the flop, which was queen high, queen deuce deuce, ace of spades on the turn, spade flush draw out there now.
By the way, I know he's not involved in this hand, but Aliev has now fallen below the 10 big blind mark. In 15 minutes, he's going to have 7.5 big blinds.
Does he have the vibe of someone who's just trying to ladder?
Yes.
Now he does,
Okay.
yes. There were other points where I would have said no, but now he certainly does.
I can't read the prizes from here. What's the jump when we get ninth out of here.
Well, we're talking about a prize for 9th place of 56,000 and a prize for 77,000 for 8th.
21K is quite a bit.
You know, Kornev has chipped up nicely, by the way, since the dinner break.
Plus, of course, the prestige of making an official
Absolutely.
EPT final
A
table.
day 6 final table.
Kornev now over 3 million in chips.
By the way, the guys at the PokerStars blog have just reposted a link to the article about the whole thing about a tournament shot clock that you were just discussing, Neil. So if you follow at PokerStars blog on Twitter, you'll find a link to that piece. And I answered a question earlier on Twitter from Kevmath, actually, asking about whether there'll be any coverage of the high roller final table. Costas has just asked whether we'll show the high roller final table after this. The answer is no. As soon as play concludes here, we are all going to bed, we're going to get well rested, and we're going to come back and bring you the final table of the main event tomorrow. And I think tomorrow's going to be a pretty long day as well.
It's looking, there doesn't appear, I mean, and I haven't been able to watch much as you guys got down to like 12 or 11 players. It doesn't really appear, who were the two guys yesterday? It was Wynn, and who was the American? That was pushing the edge.
Calvin Anderson.
And those two appeared to be like the real movers and shakers for wanting to get chips around. Doesn't really appear like we have those at this table.
Calvin Anderson ran the table, whether he was chip leader, whether he was short stacked, whether he had 20 big blinds or 40. He was really dictating most of the action, and nobody's really picked that up since his departure.
And we've got a pretty decent spread. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the stacks are above average, which you would be good for have an average of 9 players, that 5 would be above average. But there appears to be plenty of chips to move around. 40-80 with a 10 ante. We saw the blind graphic. There's what, 2 in the 30s, 2 in the 20s, and one guy with 9.
Action's folded around to the 9 big blinds. These guys know that when there's only one table, there's also no point in stalling, right?
You would hope so. On the other hand, you still see people stall when it's hand for hand. So
I'm telling you, Neil, tournament directors need cattle prods.
Now action.
I know some tournament directors who would absolutely love. They just want them branded, and they'll happily carry them around. Ville Walbeck actually wrote an article for the PokerStars blog the other day as well about the same kind of thing. He said one of the things he finds really tilting is having the players wait until it's their turn. I thought it was a very interesting one from a pro to say he finds it very tilting for players to wait until it's their turn to look at their cards, go through the whole, as I lovingly call it, the Ferguson. You know, wait until it comes around to you, do the peek, put your hands back down, do the, you know.
Count to 5.
Exactly. And he says it's all that time. And this is something I think most players just don't realize. All of that time is wasted. All of that time costs you. You know, I had this discussion with Galen Hall and Chris Oliver at the PCA final table the year Galen won. Galen had something that was driving the tournament people nuts called the bomb bet, where he would stack up everything perfect in front of him, hold it out a foot over the table, and let it splash.
It in, yep.
And Chris Oliver was leaned way back in the 3 seat, and he was flinging his bets in. And we estimated with the video and the TV guys that they probably burned a level of that final table, because the dealers then got to count all that stuff back up and lay it out so we can make sure that the bet is right and that the calls are right. And I told them both. I said, you guys cost yourselves at least a level in wasted time, and that was just on the final table.
Not just yourselves, everyone else in the tournament.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if were you two commentating on that one?
I was not.
I was commentating that with Daniel Negreanu. That was the live TV broadcast.
Oh, that's right, the ESPN live feed. And you don't want to waste Daniel's time. So, actually, I believe, to be fair to Daniel, I'm pretty sure he called them out on it a couple of times.
Daniel will always say what he sees.
Absolutely.
So Helbig's raise pre was called by Frost. Helbig bet 200,000 on the flop,
which Frost also called.
And Frost is the chip leader on the table. Has he been doing very chip leader-y type things, or just hanging out?
Not really.
He's not really had the chip lead for that long. Roman Herald was the chip leader for most of nine-handed play.
See, that's even an example of what I talked about. He cut it perfectly to 275,000 and then flung it all over the place.
Not the most egregious.
No, not the most egregious example.
But still worth a quick jab with the cattle prod.
Yeah.
Maybe not the full voltage.
No. You could have it off, actually, just with the
Just
prongs.
a poke, yeah.
Over celebration, full voltage.
Absolutely. Cattle prods would have made it so Havad Khan was never a pro.
Yeah, but how?
And we love
But
Havad,
how
but-
entertaining is that on TV, though?
Not as entertaining as seeing someone being electrocuted.
That's true. There's your new Twitter poll. Would you rather have seen the bulldozer, or would you rather have seen him beaten into the ground by 2-floor with the cattle prods?
Looks like a player's been busted from the high roller final table.
I'm thinking that's Jan-Peter Yachtman from Germany.
So even
The
though
3-seat, yeah.
even
That's,
though
Jan.
Joni Jokemainen came in as the short stack, he's managed to ladder up into 8th.
Looks like he's picked up a few chips, too. We can't really see through Scott's head there for Yanni's stack.
Are
But
they going to play this final table tonight, Neil?
they'll play until they feel like stopping, essentially.
Check on the river. Ace queen is good.
That pot going to Helbig. Neil, a question for you on the emails.
Yep.
Clearly you're very knowledgeable and enthusiastic about poker. So is it frustrating constantly being around all these huge events and not being able to play them yourself?
I mean, yes. I usually, by the time we get into later on, I'll kind of have the itch to play, and especially because I'm more of a mixed game player, and we've started adding in, like here at the festival, we had the pot limit 7 stud. We've got 7 game tonight. In Monaco, we've got pot limit stud 8, which I would love to be able to sit and play. But for the most part, it's I play recreationally. I'll go to Vegas this summer for a few weeks and play while I'm there. But I find poker is much more fun for me as a hobby than as a job. I tip my hat to all of these guys who come to Berlin and grind for 11 straight days. But it's just, I don't know that I would have any fun at it. I mean, I don't know. What about you two? Would you want to be a traveling pro?
No, absolutely not. I mean, if I was completely staked with no makeup, sure. Other than that,
All you got to do is get staked once and you'd never have makeup again, right?
yeah, I don't think so. I can't handle it. I can't handle the pressure of being a poker player. The situations they're in, it's just not. It's not for me. And as good as you are, you're still relying on the turn of a card a lot of the time, and no thanks.
I find myself very impressed at times with the players who have found that balance, that they can, they can brush it off. Be like, well, I've busted a tournament before. And I mean, I understand being gutted, you get 3 outed or 2 outed or something like that, but they can move on, go out with their friends that night, have a drink, have a nice dinner, or go home the next day to their family and, just move back to a regular life. And I think that's great. Having that balance for everyone is really good.
I always say if for some reason I played a tournament, I won it, you would never see me again. You would never see me in another tournament.
Absolutely. I'd be the first World Series of Poker main event winner not to defend. I'd be like, I'm good.
I'll be there. I'll pass the torch. You'll never see me again.
Absolutely. You give me $8 million, $5 million after Mr. Obama gets his cut, and I'll be on a beach somewhere.
I wouldn't have to give anyone a cut.
I got a couple more years. I get a British passport. If I plan on winning, maybe I have to pull an Eastgate and change my change my citizenship before the amount comes due.
That last hand, raise and take it.
So we're 3 blinds away. Actually, see, this is an interesting tanking thing. If I'm the other players, I would probably want to make sure that these last 3 hands take the next 5 minutes 45 seconds, because of the stalling that's coming out of Aliev. And the fact that he's only got 9 big blinds.
He's hurting himself, right?
Yeah, well, if this hand, we've got 5 minutes, 34 seconds left in the thing. He's got an 80K big blind now. He's about to go to a 100K big blind.
Well,
Did he just min-raise?
yeah, once again, I hope this is a virtual all-in. I hope this is not a raise-fold situation for Aliev.
It would not surprise me in the slightest.
There's a lot of volume coming from our Russian commentators now, so I think they're very interested in this min-raise with 9 big blinds,
9
I think is what he
bigs.
has. 9 bigs, yeah.
Well, that's a raise and take it with 9 bigs.
Wow. Who was in the big blind on that hand? That would have been seat 1, right? Thomas with 1.8 million?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he's not in a much better position than Aliev. He's only got 19 big blinds.
Question for you, Neil, on Twitter from Kevmath.
Hey, Kevmath.
Thoughts on scheduling the 10K and other high rollers as 3-day rather than 2-day events?
I'm going to next year. All the high rollers think I'm just false advertising now by putting it as a 2-day event. Now, in fairness, today's could finish in 2 days. They're at a final table, and it's the record for the 10K. 140 runners is a record. It's been one of the very cool things about the high roller on EPT Season 9 is at virtually every stop we've broken the record.
Cool.
Barcelona broke the record. San Remo didn't, but then Prague broke Barcelona's record. Then London broke Prague's record, and now Berlin has broken London's record with 140. And
Here
so
comes Aliev again.
$175,000.
Probably going to get the job done again.
Yeah, there is no 10K high roller in Monaco. It's a 25K. That will be a 3-day event already. But next year I will stop the false advertising, as Todd Terry calls it, and list them as 3 full-day events.
Well, the other Russian player at the table, Koronev in the big blind, seems to have a decision. Oh, he decides to fold. I can field this question from
He showed
John.
an ace, so there we go, which is kind of what we expect.
Sure.
I can answer this question from Johnny on Twitter. He says, why no TV broadcast for EPT Berlin? Why is it that fewer events are being broadcast on TV in Season 9? We haven't actually reduced, Johnny. What it is that each calendar year we choose 4 stops on the tour and make TV shows from those. So in 2012, for example, we went to the PCA, Berlin, Monaco and Barcelona. In 2013, we're going to the PCA, Monaco, Barcelona and London in Season 10. So it's still 4 events in a calendar year. It's just that we've got London this year instead of Berlin. So we've just changed that stop. But the great thing is, if we're not televising, we're streaming every single day of the tournament.
And even when we are televising, we're streaming every day from the tournament.
A couple people who wrote in, Alex saying, I disagree, you miss a lot of information if you look at your cards before action is on you. And Seema who said, waiting till it's your turn is not bad. Players like Timex want to look at their opponents for tells. I disagree with that. You can't look at all 8 other players or 7 other players at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how you can see every person's tells. It takes 1 second to look at your cards. And if you wait until it's your turn, everyone gets to look at you when you look at your cards. So I don't necessarily agree with that argument.
Yeah,
You're not going to miss much. Look at your cards. It takes 1 second. There's no way you can see everyone looking at their cards. So just take a second and look at your own cards, then watch everyone else.
Yeah, I understand people who say that there's nothing wrong with that and stuff. Essentially, I don't really. There's a shove.
There's nothing wrong with
it's
it.
a re-raise.
It is indeed. And looks like a quick fold from
Oh yeah,
the
quick
original
fold.
raiser.
Okay. I mean, that was Ville's position in his blog for Poker Stars. And while I understand that position, I personally believe that it's every player's right to look at their cards, in time. But those players do need to be aware that, again, and I know I sound like I harp on this, but I hear lots of times, anytime somebody tells me, oh, that structure's not very good, or, oh, this tournament went too fast or took too long or stuff, in my mind, and I've been part of tournament poker for a decade now, I can think of the million ways throughout, especially a big main event like this, that the players are killing their own clock. We could, if this, God forbid, but if this goes on another 2-3 hours tonight, and we get tomorrow and we're at like 150, 300,000, everybody, a lot of people watching on Twitter and are on the live stream watching on their apps and all that stuff are going to come in and say, wow, EPT Berlin was barely playable. The average stack is 25. It's only all in. It's all that. And that's not even relative to how the tournament will have played out. It's just where these players got
That's
us.
right. And also, I don't have a huge problem with a player waiting until it's their turn, but it's when it's your turn, you take a look around the table, you settle in, you peel back one card, you peel back the other one, you cap your cards. That's when it's a problem. I think there are plenty of players that wait until it's their turn and don't waste anybody's time.
Yep. Yeah, well, and you guys know because you've been in this position as well a couple of times. Oh, actually, this is. Let's take a look because this is Aliev's big blind.
It is indeed, and Helbig's raising under the gun
He's
to
at like
180,000.
12 bigs now, right?
Well, this is the last hand of 4080, so after this hand, the blinds will go up to 51.
And where are we? We're in the 9 seat right now? Or did he pass already? We are in the 9 seat.
I can
with,
assure you,
Roman.
Neil, that Roman Herald never does anything quickly.
To be fair, he is cutting chips now.
He's going to put chips in this pot.
There's a call.
The question is
Aliev priced in?
Does he defend? Yeah.
2 calls. What's the dead money right now? What's the ante? 10,000? So that's 90,000 plus the small. 130,000 in dead.
He's getting like 6-1.
And again, having said all those things about like knowing all the ways that players can cost themselves time, I still also believe it's their right to waste that time. I mean, they paid $5,000 to get in the event. It's their chips. It's their
I'm with
time.
you too. Yep.
They can do whatever they want, but they need to be aware of the impact that has. And that's why I think from an etiquette standpoint, it's on the other players.
Absolutely. It's the other players dictated that, it's the.
Ironically, it's like backlash because of Tiffany Michelle from a few years back at the series. And now everyone, they saw how abused she got, and a lot of people are terrified to call the clock. Especially, I mean, this is a 21K bubble from 9th to 8th, an EPT final table. I know we're 3-handed now, right?
Aliev has called as well. 10-6-3 flop.
What do you do if you're Aliev and you have a bad 10 in your hand?
Shove. If I've got a 10, I'm shoving for sure. I do think that...
I mean, he's got 9 big blinds left. Can you
Yeah.
not shove with top pair,
Well,
no matter what the kicker is?
My attitude is...
What do you do if you have a good 6?
Check. Probably shove as well.
I think there is a very strong argument that if you are going to call out of the big blind there because you think you're being laid this huge price, if you connect with the board in any way, including a serious draw, that you just ship it.
Yeah, 4 or 5, any 3, any 6, any 10 probably. On the other hand, watching Aliev doesn't really seem like he's that type of player. And maybe I'm wrong. He did raise early position twice and get it through both times.
Check, check. Helbig does not continue. Harold in position.
Roman Herald.
Here we go.
It's like 230.
You nailed it. The bet verified by Counselor Deanna Troy.
Is that what we're calling Nilu?
That was tweeted at us by Claw. I must concur.
I can see that as well. She's Austrian, not English, but...
Action back on Aliev.
Subtle, James, subtle. We'll record your yawn for the soundboard when we get Stapes one next year.
Not going to happen.
We discovered yesterday, it's not Stapes that can't have the soundboard, it's Nick.
Now that Aliev has folded, maybe we should fill this question from Alex Knight. It says, can we really argue a call out of a 10 big blind stack, even if he is getting 6-1? It's such a good spot to get his chips in.
It would look so strong.
I don't know if it's a good spot to get his chips in.